A quick word about the riots and the catch-22 that the Trump administration is facing. And it's a catch-22 that Democrats know they face. They're trying to force the situation. Neither outcome, and there are only two, are good for the Trump administration. So let's consider them. On the one hand, they use force. They let the National Guard, the Marines, the police do what is necessary to end these riots. Now, the only way the riots are going to end is if there is the use of force, potentially lethal force. There has to be consequences. And you see, right now, the rioters know that there are no consequences. They know that the police, the Marines, the National Guard, whoever it is, Delta Force, if they bring them in, they know that their hands are tied and they can't really do much of anything. And that's because the Trump administration is very aware that what Democrats want is they don't care anything about these people they put on the street. Not at all. What they want is for some of them to get killed. Democrats do, because they want a situation that they can frame as a Kent state, a massacre. They want some of these people to be violently put down so they could say, it's a new George Floyd. So you see, that's one problem for the Trump administration. Using force, potentially lethal force, is the only way the riots stop. But there's a problem with that. The other is that they continue the way they're going right now, which is really the use of soft force, a kind of soft coercion in which, again, there's no real consequences. And even if there are, the ones who are arrested, radical DAs, all people who were aided in getting into office by George Soros money, actually really your money, your tax dollars that George Soros directed towards, cleverly with his lawyers, directed towards NGOs that are radically undermining this administration and the America First agenda. They know that even if they are arrested, they're going to be put right back out on the street. So you see, for them, it's a game. So the Trump administration, again, to summarize, on the one hand, they use force. That will stop the riots. Nobody wants to go out on the street if there's going to be serious physical consequences for burning, destroying, pillaging, the kind of violence that are actually creating on the street. Nobody wants to get out there if they think that there's a possibility they might get seriously hurt, they might get killed. On the other hand, if the Trump administration doesn't act in that kind of way in order to avoid a potential Kent state, to avoid a potential George Floyd type situation, then the riots will just continue and they'll get bigger and bigger. You see, this is really an attempted coup d'etat. They are probing the Trump administration's resolve to stop these paid rioters, and they are paid rioters. I think this is USAID money that's being funneled right back in to the United States. So do understand when you're watching this and you're thinking, why don't they just go straight out and take these people on with force? There's a reason they're not doing that, and it's because they know that Democrats, along with their media allies, will seek to frame it as a massacre, as a fascist dictator putting his jackboot down on the throats of innocent people, that is somehow the destruction of the rule of law, the Constitution, and democracy itself, which of course it isn't, because these are people who are seeking to destroy all of those things. So as we watch this moving forward, let's see what the Trump administration decides to do. I do want to point this out. I mentioned Kent State, the so-called massacre that occurred during a protest of a bunch of anti-war hippies in 1970 at a college, a university in Ohio. Richard Nixon was reelected after Kent State, meaning the American people were reasonably supportive of the president's effort to bring order in the midst of disorder. And you see, it's one thing to have, Democratic peaceful protests. That's your right in this country. It isn't your right to go out and burn other people's property, to destroy their businesses, to destroy their home, to intimidate, and in some cases to attack. So these are the kinds of things that the Trump administration is trying to navigate. And I think we really need to pray for them, pray for wisdom as they move forward.